The Japanese art of Kintsugi. Before you get excited and jump on Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats, this is not a dish or any part of cuisine at all.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hey, what's up? What is going on? How's everybody doing today? Welcome to another episode of Hey Mark, the podcast where I, Mark, get to have open and authentic conversations about mental health and self-development. The reason I started this podcast is because I want to try and alleviate some of the suffering that's happening out there in silence because, maybe someone doesn't know how to, open up about the things that they're going through. They don't know the words to put to it. They don't know who to talk to or what to do. And so I wanted to start this podcast so that I can kind of start to let other people know that they can relate to something. And no matter what it is that you are going through, you are not alone and life can and will get better for you. And so today, I just wanted to speak about something that somebody actually DM'd me about on Instagram. And I really appreciate when people get to reach out and they want to chat about, some of the content that I posted or maybe some content they'd like to see on this podcast. I really do appreciate that stuff. So if you do want to connect with me, if you want to reach out or even join the community that I just started, you can ask me about that as well. My Instagram, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, is going to be right here at the bottom of the screen. And then if you're listening to the podcast version, it will be in the show notes as well. It's at Mark D. Henriksen. But let me get to the topic of discussion today, which is the Japanese art of Kintsugi. And I hope I pronounced that right. And so before you get excited and jump on Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats, let me just let you know that this is not a dish or any part of cuisine at all. What this is that I'm talking about is an ancient Japanese art. It could have actually started in China. I'm not, the biggest history buff, but I am kind of I definitely am into history. But, I can't date, or I guess I should have checked the origins of this, but you'll understand why that's not important. So what this is, you can Google this right now if you don't believe me. What this is an ancient art where basically if any pottery or plates or anything like that were broken, they were fixed with a lacquer that was kind of, I guess, colored or mixed with, flakes of gold or silver. And so when they put these pieces of pottery or plates back together, they were actually A, more valuable, and B, more beautiful and more desired. So I guess that's three things, but yeah, they were more valuable, more beautiful, and way more desired once they have been put back together with gold or silver lacquer. And so this, didn't hide the flaws or the breaks in the plates or pottery or anything like that. This actually accentuated them. It actually drew attention to them. And it made the quote-unquote flaws actually better or more beautiful. And like I said as well, more valuable. And I think that this is a super important lesson for all of us to take because, especially as men, in society we're taught, or I guess encouraged to kind of hide our flaws or try not to draw attention to them, try and sweep them under the rug while we show everybody how great we are in other areas or aspects of life. And I definitely have an ego. I definitely have a little bit of pride in me, and I love to show people what I'm good at. But I think that there is definitely some beauty in, being able to highlight or, like I said, accentuate your flaws and draw attention to them and not be embarrassed by them or feel like you need to hide them, but let people know that you are working on fixing them. And I think that this is super important, especially, like I said, this is important for men, but everybody can, I think, relate to this, where, like I said, when we have flaws or when we see kind of, for lack of a better term, holes in our game or any drawbacks, anything that we're embarrassed about, we tend to try and hide these things when really we all know that as humans, we're all flawed. We all have these areas that we need to work on, or areas that might be, swept under the rug. And these can be personality flaws or traits, whatever you want to call them. It could be bad habits or bad behaviors. It could be something that you're trying to hide from your partner, your friends, your family members, your boss, your coworkers, whatever it could be. And I know that especially for myself, this is actually something that really cuts deep for me because, I've had quite a lot of jobs. I've worked in quite a lot of different industries, from sales to restaurants and construction, to trying to do some online businesses as well. And then obviously running this podcast, which I wouldn't really consider a job because I don't get paid to do it. So what I'm trying to say is I've had so many times in my life where I actually have tried to hide my flaws. I have tried to, hide some of the things that I'm not good at, or hide some of the things that I felt like were something that should be embarrassing for me. And I know for example, like when I started in a sales position, I was kind of open about having, pretty bad anxiety, and I was super depressed at the time, but, I was having panic attacks. And instead of, trying to talk to somebody about the anxiety I was having, like my boss, because a lot of people in that company were having similar anxieties, I tried to bottle these things up. I tried to hide them. And, that resulted in me hiding under my desk, having a little nervous breakdown, and crying in my office. And so what I think is the more appropriate response is to be able to talk about these things openly, because once I've started to, on this podcast, for instance, I've had so many people reach out to me and say that they've dealt with something similar, or they know someone going through something similar, or they are going through something similar right now. And not only that, but once I started vocalizing these things and talking about them more often and having a better relationship with myself as well, being more honest about my flaws and trying to highlight them as opposed to hiding them, then I sat down, started journaling, and, I talked to other people to try and gain more perspectives. And, I've had conversations with close friends of mine, family members of mine. I've also had, conversations with complete strangers. I'm talking about like random old ladies in the gym that I never thought that I'd have anything that I could relate to them with. But once I started opening up, about depression or anxiety, of course these people were able to relate to that, because that's something that I feel like everybody goes through to some degree. You might be sitting there listening to this, or I guess working listening to this, or doing cardio listening to this, or folding your fucking laundry, whatever the fuck you're doing right now. But you could be listening to this right now and telling yourself, or telling me in your head, that you've never dealt with depression, you've never dealt with anxiety. But I think that, I guess that this episode speaks to it enough. I think that these are things that we kind of feel embarrassed about, or feel like we should have to hide from other people, but sometimes even ourselves. And when we do that, we act out in certain ways. We treat people improperly. We yell at them. We scream at them. We abuse them, whatever it could be. These flaws, or these, diminishing factors, whatever you want to call them, these weaknesses that we all have, if they're not attended to and if they're not fixed, they don't get to be accentuated. They don't get to be more beautiful than it was before. They actually start to go the opposite direction, and they start to manifest in pretty fucking negative ways. And I think that if we could learn anything, from, I guess, this episode, or even the art of Kintsugi, it is that, when we start to address and start to actually fix these flaws or weaknesses that we all think we have, or that we all do have, and we might not think it at the time, but we all have these. And once we start to address them and work on them and fix them, if you take the time, if you take the care, instead of just doing a hack job and quickly try and fix a flaw with a band-aid solution, which would be like kind of a temporary short-term solution, like basically a piece of tape on a broken dam. When we actually start to take the time and put quality work into fixing these flaws or weaknesses, or, like I said, any adversities that we're struggling with right now, when we do take that time and attention and put a little bit of extra care, then where we used to have flaws, where we used to have blemishes, where we used to have these weaknesses, we actually start to create strengths, and we actually start to create a lot more beauty. And I think that if we can kind of end this stigma, which is part of my goal with doing this podcast, if we can try and end this stigma around, having to be perfect all the time, especially, like I said, this goes for everybody, but especially for men out there, listen to this. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, but fuck, man, if I start to open up about my flaws and my weaknesses, chicks might not dig me as much. I might not get a job. The person that might prospectively hire me might think I'm, too much of a liability emotionally, whatever it could be. Maybe you're scared of your boss figuring this shit out, that you do actually have flaws. Once we cut all that bullshit and start to understand what being a fucking adult is, and like I said, for all you ladies out there, what being a true woman is, for all you boys out there, what being a man is being able to have the fucking strength to say, look, I've got fucking flaws, I've got weaknesses, and I've not only addressed these things, but I'm consistently fucking working on it. When people hear that, 9 times out of 10, obviously there's some fucking idiots out there, but 9 times out of 10, people are going to listen to that vulnerability and they're going to think, God damn, that guy's brave and strong for not only opening up about his fucking flaws, and now maybe I can as well, but they're also going to think this about you. They're going to think, wow, this guy's actually fucking working on his flaws when I'm out here trying to hide them. And this creates a ripple effect. People are impressed by, I guess I should say people are not impressed, or they shouldn't be impressed by the adversities that we are going through, but they will be impressed by the solutions you find and the ways that you overcome these adversities. Everybody has flaws. Everybody has weaknesses. And if you're telling yourself or me that you don't, you're a fucking liar. You need to get your fucking head out of your ass and understand that having flaws and having weaknesses is part of being human. And it's okay to have flaws and it's okay to have weaknesses, so long as you're actually addressing them and working on fixing them. So that's all I got for today. I know this might have been a slap in the face for some of you that are trying to hide your weaknesses, but it's going to be a real fucking pump up message for anybody out there that's acknowledging their weaknesses and actually trying to overcome them. Because I'm telling you right now, that is the brave thing to do, and that is the fucking strong and powerful thing to do. So again, this message, when it was sent to me through my DMs on Instagram, it was actually more directed to men. But I'm trying to, I guess, relate this for everybody, because I think this is not just a message for men. I think that this is a message for everybody to take some value from. Just because, a $5 bill's got a fucking tear in it and it's all crumpled up and wrinkled up and maybe it's old as fuck, it's still worth $5. Actually, if it's old as fuck and it's not circulating anymore, it might even be worth more. So take a look at yourself in the fucking mirror, or go and get a book, a journal, whatever it is. Reflect on your weaknesses, your flaws, the adversities that you're going through right now, something that you're struggling with. And be honest with yourself about the root cause of that thing, and then start to address it and start to acknowledge the fact that there is, things that you can do to try and work on this. You're not as stuck as you think you are. Go out and fucking kill it today, because that's all I got. Go out and have the best fucking day that you've had in a long fucking time. Make this day, make this week, make this month, this year, make it your fucking best yet. I am fucking rooting for you. And for all of you people that are out there supporting this message, supporting this cause, thank you so much. I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you are the reason that I do what I do. And if you got some value from this, you liked this perspective, or you think that more people should hear this message, please do share this episode with a friend. I really do appreciate it. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave a fucking review. If you're not, go on Apple Podcasts and leave a review. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, hit subscribe, hit like, share this shit with people that need to hear this message. That's all I got today. Thank you so much. Much love and peace out. Let's go, motherfuckers.